So. We're going to talk a little bit about marathon. There's a new video today that I saw from Jesse Kazam. It's right here, actually. We're going to watch this. I want to do some reactions to it just to see how Mr. Dr. Fate here feels about Jesse Kazam. Now, Jesse Kazam, for those of you who don't know, is a long-time Tarkov streamer, extraction shooter player. I trust a lot about what he says. I've listened to a lot of what he says, the podcast, etc., 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 the podcast. Let me rephrase that. We're going to just see what he says about the 10 things you need to know before playing Marathon. So I'm excited to see what happens. Let's take a listen.
Away from the Marathon Server Slam, and the official launch of the game comes pretty much right after that. As someone who has played a good amount of Marathon...
By the way, the Server Slam is from February 26th to March 2nd. Come watch me as I dominate in Tau Ceti, and I'd love to see you guys there.
So far, I wanted to put together a guide of a few things that you should know before you dive into the game. Some of the gameplay systems can be a little complex and even a little overwhelming at first, but I think that complexity will be a strength of the game and a source of its fun in the long run. So it's a good idea to get a head start so that you can know as much as you can before you hit the ground running this weekend. Let's start by talking about one of the defining features of Marathon, and that is the deep build crafting that you get to do with your runners. And so diving in, tip number 1 is learn the implants and the cores. This is going to be a major part of the build crafting in the game and will absolutely be a huge part of the skill ceiling as people learn about what these are, what they do, and how they synergize together. Cores are runner-specific augments, meaning if you find one for Destroyer, you can put it in your bag and take it out no matter what runner you're using, but you're only going to be able to use that core if you are running the Destroyer shell. They come in different rarities and can do all sorts of things like increasing the duration of your abilities, increasing your movement speed, all the way up to these huge impactful changes like allowing Vandal to triple jump instead of just double jump, or allowing Destroyer to gain health and shields from damage done to his Riot Barricade. Each runner can equip really 2 cores at a time.
I think the thing about cores is going to make this game different is you might know what you're up against, but you don't know what abilities they may have upgraded. I think that's going to make each fight feel different and unique for the most part. It's not going to be always the same. You're going to have to kind of adapt on the fly, which is really cool.
Which can create some cool synergies. For example, for the Vandal runner, Amplify is their ultimate ability. It decreases the amount of stamina your movement needs, and it increases your movement speed and weapon dexterity. The Adrenal core further reduces the stamina requirement for movement when you are using your Amplify ability. And then when you add the Mechanized Holsters core, now when you use your power slide, it automatically reloads your ballistic weapons. And now, since you have so much more movement speed and so much more stamina at your disposal, you can chain these power slides to keep forward pressure on a team without needing to reload. There is a lot of cool stuff like this. On the other side, you have implants. Implants are not runner specific, and there are 3 different types of implants: head, torso, and legs. And you can have one equipped in each of these different categories at a time. Implants also come in different rarities, and they can range from small stat boosts up to very powerful new traits. They will often also have multiple rarities of the same type of implant. For example, Distance Runner V1 is a leg implant that slightly increases the
Sorry, Jesse, that's a V2, but I get what you're saying. You're trying to
amount of stamina that you have. But at Distance Runner V4, it gives you a bigger increase to your stamina, but it also adds a trait where after sprinting for a short amount of time, sliding will make you temporarily invisible. And these things, the cores and the implants, they come together to create some
all of it.
Crazy cool build crafting. Now, it's important to know that all the information that we have about the cores and the implants that we've seen from gameplay may be out of date. Any of these specific examples I give may no longer be possible based on what changes or balances that they've done for the final build of the game, but it gives you a good idea of what is possible when combining these cores and implants. They have even been teasing some new stuff that we haven't seen before on their socials. For example, they showed a Vandal core that lets you not take damage from your own little arm cannon blast.
Really
so now you
cool.
can use that to kind of move yourself around. And then pairing that with the Graceful Landings V5, meaning that when you fall from a great height, you actually do damage to people around you. So they showed some clips of her using the arm cannon to kind of eject her straight up into the air and then falling on a group of enemies and doing a ton of damage. There is some really cool stuff that is going to be possible in this game, but this is not all that there is to the build crafting.
Love that.
And that brings us to tip number 2, and that is understand the runner's base stats. To fully understand the build crafting in Marathon, you're going to have to understand the base stats that are at play here and how each runner differs. There are 13 base stats in the game that determine your proficiency at pretty much everything that you do. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory, like loot speed, melee damage, ping duration, and fall resistance, but some of them are a little bit more obscure. Heat capacity is basically how much stamina you have. Agility increases your movement speed and jump height. Prime recovery and tactical recovery are just how fast your prime ability and tactical abilities recover.
So what I noticed off the rip, as a longtime D2 player, it looks like, minus the name changes, they're taking kind of the same stat blocks that are in Destiny.
Self-repair speed increases the rate at which you recover health and shield. Finishing Siphon increases the amount of shields regained after performing a finisher on a runner. Hardware reduces the duration of physical status effects, and Firewall reduces the duration of electronic status effects. These stat values are different between all of the runners. Each runner will have their own strengths and weaknesses when it comes to these stats, and these are also adjustable with implants. Those head, torso, and leg implants that we talked about can often adjust your stats, and they often come with like pros and cons. So something might increase your heat capacity, but decrease your firewall or something like that. These stats are also adjustable within the faction upgrades. A faction upgrade can permanently increase a certain stat by a set amount that will apply to any runner that you choose once you've unlocked that. Ultimately, all of these things between the stats and the cores and the implants come together to create the build crafting in Marathon. At the highest level,
I think one thing
you'll be choosing
I want to say about that is I want to know how Arc Raiders has one really cool thing about it, since they don't have wipes, and that's the prestige system, where you can essentially get benefits like permanent unlocks for wiping essentially your account after, you know, completing a certain set of tasks. I wonder if they're going to have a feature like that in Marathon, because let's say instead of buying everything, wouldn't it be cool to just like have certain things as a permanent unlock, or just something that you can grind for at the end of a certain time period you can have. I think that's one thing that I want to see at a Marathon, is the ability, because I don't know if there's going to be wipes. I don't know if they've said anything about what wipe mechanics they have, if any. I don't think they have any. And for extraction shooters, not having a wipe can be a blessing or a curse. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is different because they see things that we don't, because, you know, you don't have safe pockets and whatnot. Maybe for them it's like whatever. But there's a part of me, just a tiny part of me, that is thinking like, okay, what will happen when some Timmy joins a year from now, or even 4 or 5 months, and they're starting out and everyone has, like, let's say someone's ranked everything up because they're just a no-life sweat. Will playing against them feel fun? Will it be similar? Because if the upgrades are impactful enough for you to notice, then a Timmy's going to notice they're getting shit on. But if they're not impactful enough to notice, then there's no point of having them anyways. So again, this is a balancing thing. This is just a thing I've thought about. I don't know. It's just food for thought.
Runner, because of these special abilities, each of those runners will lend themselves to certain playstyles more or less due to their base stats. And then the cores and implants that the game provides allow you to tailor and tune a runner more towards the way that you want to play them. It can be really complex, but I think that's a good thing, and I'm excited to see how this shapes the game over the long term. Moving on though, tip number 3 is focus factions and
Love the
progression.
music you got in the background.
There are 6 factions in the game, and they will each have different quest lines that they give you, and also each have a whole host of faction upgrades that can be purchasable with credits or purchased with rare materials found in the game.
Okay.
These upgrades can be permanent stat boosts, like we said before, but they can also increase your stash size or make new gears and cores and consumables available for purchase from the black market, and they can even provide discounts on those materials that you buy from the black market.
Pretty good.
You can level up each faction by completing quests for them, and each time you level up a faction, there will be even more rewards given for leveling them up. Even though each faction will have multiple quests available to you, at least in all the tests I played, you are only allowed 1 active contract during each raid.
Okay.
So making sure that you have an active contract, that you are going to the right map for that contract, and that you are synced up with your team so that you can get them done efficiently will be very important. Which brings us right into tip number 4, and that is have a plan of what you want to spec into at these faction upgrades. Once again, 6 factions, each with their own upgrade board, and the fact that probably about half of those upgrades each have multiple levels to them means that there are a ton of options here. And I'm sure that what you want will change as you play, and over time I'm sure that metas and stuff like that will form, but there are a few really commonly wanted things that I suggest that you go for first. Number 1 is increase your stash size. In my experience, the stash space in Marathon was almost debilitatingly small. You are going to want to prioritize increasing your stash space ASAP, especially since that extra space will allow you to keep even more rare materials that you will need for further upgrades. I believe there's an early stash space increase you can grab from Cyber Acme, so be on the lookout for that. Number 2 is heat capacity. In games like this, having more stamina is always a good thing. Jumping, sliding, and sprinting all generate heat, and since this game's combat will be very fast-paced, investing in extra stamina is an easy win. Moving on to tip number 5, and that is learn the gun modification system. This is another bit of Marathon that can be extremely confusing and overwhelming due to the amount of mods that there are and how they don't really look too visually distinct from each other, or at least they haven't in the past. There are, I think, a little over 20 guns in Marathon, and the way it works is that the mods change the rarity of the gun. A purple Bully SMG is just a gray Bully SMG with purple attachments on them. There are a lot of different types of attachments like barrel mods, generators, grips, magazine, muzzle, optic, shield, and chip mods. The maximum amount of attachments a gun can have is 4. I don't think there are currently any guns where you can put 5 or 6 attachments on unless those are new, and some had a few less. I think there were a couple guns where you could only put 3 attachments on. But every gun will have some combination of those attachment types that you can put on the gun. Some mods are usable across multiple guns, like chip mods. These seem to be the most universal mods, and I think that almost every single gun in the game had a chip mod slot. These can basically add traits to guns, like the ability to make money when you kill UESC bots, or making it so that when you kill a hostile, they explode, doing some damage to the people around them. Some attachments like optics and magazines are a little bit more specialized and will only appear on a limited number of guns. And then some guns are going to have bespoke gold level attachments made just for that gun. This can often completely transform a gun. We've heard the devs talk about a gold attachment that...
I think that's another thing that's going to be cool. Is the gun crafting. I really want to dive into it and really see what I can do. So in Destiny 2, they added the ability to craft weapons, and you can craft some crazy things. This is kind of similar, where you're adding modifications to guns that are existing. I just love the idea that instead of having just like a gun that's just goated, like a gold gun, now it's the attachments that give it that rarity, which I love.
Turns one of the Volt SMGs basically into the Needler from Halo, and they have spoken about a gold attachment for the Magnum that can turn you invisible for a period of time once you get a kill. I'm excited to see more of these gold attachments as we dive into the game, but the gun modification system is definitely something you are going to want to get to know. This can drastically change how guns feel or create new situations for them to be useful in, and is ultimately a whole new aspect of the build crafting, since you will be able to change how certain guns perform to match how you play with some of the runners. Tip number 6 is learn these status effects. There are a couple different status effects in the game. Immobilize, Overheat, and Toxin are the physical status effects, and how severe they are is determined by your hardware stat, and they can be removed by using a mechanics kit or an advanced mechanics kit.
Typically.
EMP and Hack are status effects that affect your electronic systems. How severe they are is determined by your firewall stat, and they can be removed using an OS reboot or an advanced OS reboot. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure what all of these do yet and how they differ. In the alpha, these were almost always something you could kind of just get away with ignoring. However, I do think that they are going to play a much bigger part of the game in its final form. They've already shown off some stuff, like, for example, with Triage, where one of his traits is that when you break an enemy's shield with a Volt weapon, you apply the EMP status effect to them. And then we know he has a core where if you defeat an enemy with the EMP status effect active, it reduces some of your skill cooldowns. And we even know of a weapon chip mod that gives you health or shield when damaging somebody with EMP active. So stuff like this really makes me think that learning these status effects and how to get rid of them and what they do is going to be a big deal. So keep an eye out in game, and I will probably be also making a guide once I get a better understanding of these things once the game releases. With that in mind, however, tip number 7 is learn all of the consumables in the game. For the med system, it's pretty simple. You have shield rechargers and health rechargers. The green versions of these are basically your basic ones. There are also gray versions that are depleted versions. You can find these in raid, and they do the same thing. They are just going to heal you for a smaller amount of health or shields. And then the blue or quote unquote advanced versions are the same. They are just going to heal you for more health or shields, than the green ones. The Pangea kit will fully restore your health and shields and remove any of your status effects. And yes, there is a self-revive in the game, pretty self-explanatory. That is going to be nice to have. Beyond the med system, there are other consumables like Cardio Kick, which reduces your heat buildup, effectively giving you more stamina and increases your agility. The Energy Amp makes your abilities recharge faster, and the Signal Jammer, which temporarily scrambles your visual profile, obscuring your appearance to hostile runners, UESC, and various sensors. In the past, I believe that this made it so that other runners couldn't ping you, and I think this will also interact with some of Recon's scan abilities, making you harder to see. And from that description, it also sounds like it's going to make you harder to see by the AI as well. And then, like we talked about before, there's the mechanics kit and the OS reboots, and those are there to just remove status effects. Tip number 8 is learn the map events. On each of the maps, there can be a number of dynamic events that can be triggered by players or happen randomly. These are something that often got overlooked in the alpha because it's not really intuitive to know what you're looking at when you open the map and see them, but they are going to be important to learn. They're most likely going to provide some of the best loot and some of the hardest enemies. And since some of these events are triggered by players, there will also be PvP hotspots. Learning what happens to the environment when these events are initiated is going to be helpful as well, because it's going to help you know if there's a team nearby working on one. A couple that we've seen already are the high value target, where a big boss spawns in a big bubble and you have to use a mechanics kit and go in there and kill them and get some loot. Incursions are the big flip phone in the sky opening up and spawning waves of enemies with a bunch of loot at the end. And like we said, some are triggered by players like the intercept.
This is so reminiscent of Destiny, like public events. It's almost the exact same, and I'm so excited because again, I love Destiny. RIP Destiny 2. I think that game's pretty much out the door. I think they should just focus on Marathon and Destiny 3 for now.
Which is kind of a
hot take, but it's my take. Don't at me. That's not what this video is about.
Puzzle moving from terminal to terminal until you find the right one and get some loot. And the hazard rooms, where you have to empty a room of a hazardous gas and you only have a certain amount of time to get in there and loot before it fills up with the gas. All these events are going to create sound cues and visual cues to let people around you know what you're doing. They've also teased more of these, and I expect that there will be tons of little secrets and puzzles and even more events as we get to the final game. Tip number 9 is respect the AI. In my experience with Marathon, the UESC can definitely overwhelm you and kill you pretty quickly. Any one of them on their own aren't really an issue, but they can and will call in reinforcements that may throw off a flank or a split that you might be doing with your team. The temptation might just be to push through, but that will often be a mistake. Spend time learning how each of the AI move and what their attacks are. You have kind of the basic UESC bot, the Grenadier ones, the shielded ones, and the sniper ones that can also go invisible. Additionally, almost every enemy type comes in different rarities / difficulties. Most of the bosses that we've seen are just some of those normal AI juiced up. Their color and shield strength will often let you know what rarity you're working with. I think the white ones were the bosses in the alpha. And finally, moving on to tip number 10, and that is loot what you need. Backpack space, like we said earlier, is very limited, and you're going to need a lot of meds and a lot of ammo that can clog up your backpack and make it hard to know what to actually take out and extract out of a raid. There are tons of mats that you are going to need later on for upgrades, but trying to take out 1 or 2 of every rare thing you find can fill up your stash really quickly. Try to have a few items that you know you need that you can focus on looking for, and beyond that, just try to keep the things you know you need. If you're low on money, prioritize sellable items, and if you're low on gear, prioritize guns and attachments.
Which is classic just extraction shooter things. So if you played Tarkov, Arc Raiders, etc., just keep doing what you're doing, brother.
There are a ton of items in this game, and it can be overwhelming to figure out what to keep and what to sell. A common extraction shooter trap is to just fill up your stash with a bunch of stuff that you might not need for like 50 hours, and then dealing with that becomes a nightmare. You will definitely accidentally sell an item that you later will need, but that's just going to happen. Start with what you know you need and go from there. I am really excited to dive back into Marathon and to see what the final build of this game looks like. I still have a lot of questions about the mechanics, the progression, the longevity of the game, and I am excited to get some answers to those questions with the launch of the game. If you like this video, I plan to cover the launch of Marathon pretty extensively, so sound off in the comments if you want to see more Marathon content. Drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you think I deserve it, and I will definitely be streaming Marathon pretty much every day on Twitch, so I would love to have you stop.
If you guys want great information on extraction shooters as a whole, him, Jesse Kazam, his channel, his Twitch, Veritas, the podcast that they both do is a wealth of knowledge. I thoroughly enjoy watching it. You guys should all check it out. I'm going to link everything in the bottom of this video so that way you guys have access to it. but it's just a great watch. Thank you for tuning on into this video, and I'll see you guys next time. The server slam is starting in 3 days, almost 2, so I'll see you in there. Come on by the stream and watch me. It'll be a fun time.